So this is Laura, the Sound Sommelier, with my special guest, Miss Hap. Thanks for joining me. What's your earliest memory of hip hop?
I would say my earliest memory of hip hop was when I have relatives who live in Uppsala, which in Sweden, which is like an hour outside of I think it's an hour outside of Stockholm, but when I was young they visited us and they used to give me like music compilations of their local radio station. And one of the compilations they gave me was it had Step Into a World by KRS-One. And I think that was like the first song. I might have been like maybe like 9 when I heard it. And that was probably the first song that really like took me, that just really captivated me. Another early memory was like the Crooklyn soundtrack used to be on all the time when I was a kid. And just the Crooklyn Dodgers theme, the first, like just that intro when they announce 1-on-1 to Jackie Robinson just still gets me like excited to this day.
Nice. So where did you grow up, in Brooklyn or in New York?
So I grew up in New York. I grew up in Queens Village, Queens, which is like kind of where the suburbs of begin before you go to Long Island. And I grew up there till I was about 12, and then we moved to New Hyde Park, which is on the Nassau-Queens border, but on the Nassau side. So I grew up there also. I went to college at Adelphi University, and I live in Ridgewood, Queens now.
So you just come hang out in Brooklyn?
I do, yeah. I was in Bed-Stuy for a while also. Yeah, I've been here for a few years, and yeah, love New York.
Nice. Did your family or parents used to play music a lot when you were younger? Do you remember any records when you were younger being played in the house? Or?
Well, it was a very musical, like we played a lot of, not necessarily records. I didn't really grow up with records, but there was just music played everywhere. My dad used to be a radio DJ in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and we always just had like jazz or just like Miles Davis or John Coltrane playing, and my mom was kind of more into like and my dad was into like funk and disco, and that was the kind of stuff I would grow up listening to. And he used to travel a lot internationally for work, so he'd bring back music from South Africa, or he'd bring music from Nepal even. He was there for a minute. And my mom was more into like 70s, 80s R&B, disco and pop kind of stuff, anything dancey. And it wasn't until I was, I think, 17 when my dad started bringing back his records back from Ethiopia, and we bought a turntable and we started listening to some of the records he used to grow up listening to.
Nice. So I'm assuming they were supportive of when you started to try your hand at DJing?
I think so. They were really excited about it, and you know, even last year, my dad came out to one of my gigs, and it was a really wonderful time and a wonderful day. But he kept like taking records out of my bag and trying to hold them, like just to show,
like give them to you.
He's like, and this is how to hold them back in when I was a kid. Like, okay, Dad, thank you.
Like, yes, I am aware.
Yeah.
That's really cute.
Yeah.
Who would you name as early influences on your style?
Let's see.
Like,
I would like in terms of like style, in terms of.
So when you first started DJing, what style did you kind of start with did you start because you went somewhere and heard a record, or just enjoyed a certain style when you went out? Or
I would I like DJing reggae. Like I still DJ reggae a lot, and that's what I started off DJing because I just fell super in love with it. And I used to like the style of Don Letts, I think would be the Clash's early DJ. Like one of the earliest DJs in England during the punk scene who didn't, because there was just no punk records, but yeah, like he was just into, playing reggae at these shows. And, he's still he's someone I look up to. And I would just definitely go with Don Letts. Yeah, and I was a little bit into the disco stuff too, but I didn't really play it out as much. So I would definitely also go with like Larry Levan was one for sure, like just a legend in my mind. Yeah.
nice. So when you first started, was it just you, or did you have like a group of friends? Did you have any kind of mentors at the time that helped you kind of navigate what you were going with it?
When I started off, it was just I was mostly going to open turntable nights,
Nice.
and I would have like the same group of friends, like my friend Telly, my friend Andy, my friend Julian, and my friend Keith, and my other friend Bradley, who lives in Glendale. And it was just, we would always play at like the Queen's Tavern every Sunday. You'd just hang out there, play records, whatever. And we'd been playing, I think, to ourselves and just as friends. But in terms of, and then it was way before we started, I think, doing gigs of our own. So that was kind of like my crew for a minute, like just the same core group of friends who I would see every week, and we would just play records and just nerd out every Sunday. And, that was kind of where I gained confidence to play in public, but in a public space with and just have the space to practice, and just have your peers be there for you and like also rooting for them too.
Nice. Where's your favorite spot to go digging?
Oh man, so many.
You can name a few if you want to.
I love A1 Records. Shout out to Wolf. Shout out to Wolf on the check-in. Human Head, shout out to Sean Dubb on the check-in. Bene's shop in Red Hook on Van Brunt Street, just called Record Shop. I love that place a lot. I also love played a record in Toronto. This other spot that has really great reggae in Toronto called J Poison in Kensington Market in downtown Toronto, which I really like. And when I went to Puerto Rico a few years ago, and there's this old guy named Frankie in Trujillo Alto who has like a house, like it's just an hour outside of San Juan, of just like records full of salsa, merengue, even just the like also like all the American classics too. But I just liked it because he was just a very welcoming guy, and he gave me like a potato snack and a little paper cup and coffee too. So yeah. And Record City too. I like Record City where I work a lot.
I would hope so. Do you remember the first record you ever purchased with your own money?
I think the first record I purchased with my own money was Rubber Soul by the Beatles. So when I was growing up on Long Island, I started buying records at like garage sales, and it was a really great place to buy records for like 25 cents, like 25, 50 cents. And I didn't really, I'd grown up with kids who liked them, but I didn't, and even my dad liked them a lot, but I didn't really know their music like that, so I just kind of bought it on a whim. And I also bought like Tattoo You by the Stones, by the Rolling Stones. Um, Moon Dance by Van Morrison also, I think that was like kind of some of the earliest records I bought with my own money.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where was your first paid gig?
I would say my first paid gig was when I was doing open turntable nights at the Queen's Tavern on Sunday. Um, the owner was like this really he's the owner, Jason Kleinman, is such a sweetheart, and yeah, he was like, you should do a night on your own, and it was on a Thursday, like this is 2014, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, yeah, just you could do a set, you could play from like 8 to midnight, and that was the first time I played out on my own. Yeah.
Nice.
Tavern in Ridgewood.
So you've had the pleasure of playing some of NYC's longest running reggae parties, including Coney Island Reggae and the Boardwalk and When Dance Was Nice. Do you have any go-to records that seem to always find their way into your sets?
Yeah, I have like a couple of records like that. I like the Channel One version of Worries in the Dance by Frankie Paul. I think the Volcano version is more known to people, but that one is just such a tough cut, and just really deadly, like a really early 80s rub-a-dub dance hall, just like the minute it kicks in, and then police sirens too throughout the song, which I really like. I also really like this early rock steady group called the Invaders, Soulful Music. Soulful Music is like it's like a late 60s, like Studio One rock steady cut that they reissued in Japan, I think 2012. And the original record itself was kind of sought after for a long time, but yeah, I always have that one in the bag. And People Make the World Go Round by the Chosen Few. It's like an early 70s cover of the song, produced by Derek Harriott of the Crystalites on his Crystal Records label, and just had a lot of phenomenal covers on that label that I really love. Yeah, Greg Chun, exactly, Chun.
Greg knows all the tunes.
Yeah. I made him play that record once when I had to go to the bathroom
Nice.
during the middle of the gig.
He's always there when you need him.
Exactly. Love you, Greg. Shout out to the Vista Vinyl Club. Shout out to the crew.
What is it that you love about crowds in New York City, regardless of which borough you're playing in?
What I love about crowds?
Like the crowds here.
I think what I love is that people keep an open mind here, and it's just you tend to find every walk of life in this city, and every doesn't matter what your ethnicity or your sexuality or your gender. You just tend to find no one's experience is the same, and just that everybody is celebrating under a banner of music is, I think, the most gratifying part about being a DJ in New York.
Right. So you've made radio appearances on The Lot, WFMU, WNYU, and Bebox Radio. Do you think the pandemic could force DJs to return to radio, since playing to large crowds won't be an option for at least a little while, or more than a little while?
I think it's definitely that, and I think because people really rely on the arts to get through the pandemic, getting through this pandemic, whether it's TV or movies or even just music or live streams. I think relying on just like radio or I think it's just easier. It's just easy to get lost and listen to somebody on the radio, whether it's like archived or live, and just really forces you, um, just forces you to really listen to music when, when they're in their comfort zone and not like listening and not like in the middle of like a crowded set, but just like I think you really can see where the heart and soul of people's music, the way people play music and what songs mean to them when they're in a very candid environment like radio.
Very true. So working at a record store has always been a dream of mine, and you were working the counter at Record City in Flatbush several days a week, and I think you told me they're reopening soon.
Yeah, we're opening this Friday at noon.
Nice. Do you think brick and mortar shops can survive this pandemic?
I think so. I think for the most part, us and a lot of other stores have weathered it out, just because we didn't stop. We just didn't stop selling records. We just moved it online.
Nice.
And we had, I think for us, like, we just have like a really good core of customers, who just like had our back throughout this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That made us weather this pandemic. Okay. I don't know I don't know how it is for, I mean, I can't speak for other stores, but just saying, I think for mine, we were able to just continue hustling and even just buying records out in the field, and then just really communicating with the people closest to us and like our supporters about stuff that they'd be interested in, and just like really going at it, and also just taking our time, like not we weren't really in a rush to reopen. Like, I think for now we're gonna be open like 3 to 4 days a week and just take it really slowly. But I think, but I'm really excited, for us to get back, and it's gonna be exciting.
Nice. Have they communicated like what the protocols will be? Like, can only a certain amount of people be in there?
Yeah. I think for now we're just gonna have 3 people at a time, and then obviously no mask, no entry. Like, just don't be a dick. No mask. I don't think our listening station is gonna be in use. I think we're just gonna tell people, like, if you have a portable, just bring it, but otherwise we can't really use the listening station. Three people at a time. Sanitize. Just all the basic responsible stuff. Like, it's not that hard. Just as long as you realize that this isn't over, but you still want to buy records, it's gonna be a great experience, if we do our shit.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really respectful customers, so hopefully you won't have any kind of issues.
Definitely, for sure.
What are your thoughts on the live streaming, which has taken a bit of a front seat?
I think live streaming it's been for the most part, I think, just an outlet for people to keep going, because that's just really the only way I think that you can. And it just also depends on it just really, I think, depends on the platform that you're on. Like, I think like Instagram live streaming and Facebook is just gonna be, I think there's just gonna be no way to sustain doing just that. As long as like, if you're like not a celebrity working directly with the streaming services, it's just not conducive to, an all around good, like, great experience for playing live. But I was on Twitch the other day for the first time, doing a fundraiser with some friends of mine for the bail
Nice.
fund. Just still, the link is still in my bio if you want
I was
to
gonna say, if you want to share about that, I know you're pretty passionate about that.
Yeah, so yeah, like it was just me and the Disco Originals crew. We were raising money over the course of last Thursday to Sunday for the Bail Fund, which is a national nonprofit that aims to raise, bail funds for communities, primarily communities who can't afford bail, which affects, black and brown people, and low income people. So link is in my bio, and anyone wants to give some money to the cause. Yeah. So you're asking me about live streaming. I think,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Sorry to go off on a tangent.
No, that's totally fine.
But yeah, I think that's just really the only way we're gonna be able to do it. For now is until they either have a vaccine out soon. It's just we're not gonna go back to playing out anytime soon, like playing
Right.
out in clubs. And yeah, I think just the way, I think that's just the way that it's gonna be, and I think it's a beautiful thing. I don't, yeah, there's some days where the isolation it just doesn't sit well, but
Yeah.
just gotta take it as it comes. It's life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to avoid getting sick or getting others sick, it's kind of the only option.
Exactly.
So what have you been listening to over the last few months? Do you have a pandemic playlist or anything like that?
I've had I've been buying I was buying a lot of soul funk jazz records. Yeah, like Johnny Hammond. There's another record, yeah, like Roy Ayers' Ubiquity, the Mystic Voyage album. That's been really rocking my world a lot. In terms of reggae, I mentioned the Worries in the Dance song, but there's a whole compilation too on that song, based around that song, that had different artists touching that exact rhythm. So you had people like Patrick Andy and Michael Palmer and Leroy Smart, kind of taking that same instrumental and doing what they wanted with it. So I've been really enjoying that. I also like the Massive B label a lot, and I've recently found a bunch of records on that label. A bunch of records on that label in my own collection that I forgot I had, and I did like a little set on IG Live, like IGTV, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Tarot Fabulous, Tarot Fabulous, Fear No Man. It's just one of the, I just forgot how tough that song is. It's just on that that song by Conroy Smith, New York Girl, but it's just this tough 90s New York, dance hall hip hop DJ cut, where it kind of, I think, really speaks to the time of I'm walking in the park, I fear no man, living life as a black man in not just New York but in America in general. It's a brave thing, and just really goes to the heart of, I'm here, I fear nobody. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if I believe in fate or anything, but just to find that song again and reconnect with it, with the way the state of the world is going, is, yeah, I don't know what, yeah. But does it mean something? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never know. I'm a big believer in faith. So that's kind of a good segue into my next question. So the country has seen an obscene amount of racial injustice exposed over the last couple months. What are your thoughts on what's being done or not done to address these issues?
I mean, I like that. I mean, it's fucked up that this keeps happening, but it's all over like not all over the country, all over the world. People are protesting, and people have just had enough. And I hope that momentum, sustains itself from it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, but and I think also seeing like, white people being a little bit more vocal about their privilege and saying, hey, I see you, and, seeing more posts online. And, yes, there's a lot of like there's a lot of performative allyship that happens that's just inevitable. But, also, but I think, I think also just this next Generation Z, this younger generation, I think, is committed to breaking the cycle of racism and educating their parents and their communities by organizing marches against police brutality and against racial violence is, I think, really, it's very gratifying to witness those things. I think what needs to be done is just defunding the police. Like, here in New York, the city council passed a budget that, that claimed that they were taking $1 billion out of the NYPD budget. And, all it did was it took money out of the NYPD, put it back into DOE to make sure that, school traffic agents were still, stationed at schools. And those are people who, those are people who, continue to criminalize Black and brown people. It didn't take out a substantial amount of money out of the NYPD budget. And yeah, a lot of social services were cut. That was passed. Social ed services to the education department was cut. Yeah, like, I think a lot more needs to be done in terms of actively defunding, police departments around the country that, that could better benefit social service agencies that affect, that would benefit at-risk communities. Yeah, I think what also needs to be done is Breonna Taylor's killers need to be arrested. That shit is just really angering. Only one of the officers got fired, and that's it. Like, that's all that happened. Like how could you pass a no-knock a law? How could they have passed a no-knock law, like just banning that practice, and then you don't arrest the motherfuckers who killed her? Like, so I've been calling like the Kentucky Attorney General's office every day, the governor, whoever, to demand that, hey, we haven't forgotten, like, this was March 13th. This was 4 months ago she was killed. This is 4 months ago she was killed, and you guys haven't done anything. And also, like, Elijah McClain's killers need to be, they also need to be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent and go to jail for murder. I think like, people are seeing, like, whatever, you could call all the syrup, you could call syrup racist, you could, if you're a corporation, you could put out your message saying, like, oh, we see you, we'll do better, blah, 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 blah. But, what good is all this gonna, like, and what good is all of this gonna do when the actors of state violence aren't held accountable? And you know, and are not arrested for the murders of, you know, young Black people who had their lives ahead of them.
Right.
So yeah, that needs to be, you know, that the enough is enough. Like, you know, arrest the killers of Breonna Taylor and Elijah McClain.
Especially because they're known. It's not like they don't know who they are.
Yeah, like we don't, like, the whole world knows them. We see them. You know, these were young men and women who had their lives ahead of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no justification for their deaths, and the fact that, you know, their killers are still roaming free and, you know, are living freely and comfortably, and they're dead and buried in the ground is horrific. And, you know, more needs to be done.
I agree. I just wanted to touch on one thing you said. I never really thought about this way, but you mentioned something about how the younger generation is going to hopefully be teaching their parents, which I think is a huge thing, because I think that's one of the biggest reasons that racism is so systemic, is because parents are passing it down to their children, who are passing it down to their children. So
Mm-hmm.
I think education is like the biggest thing right now, and there's no money in education, so it's not looking too good. But
Yeah,
something needs to happen.
absolutely, 100%.
Do you have anything else that you want to add? Do you want to share any kind of like social media, any kind of promotional stuff? Are you working?
Pardon? Sorry.
Are you working on anything? Like any kind of mixes
right now,
or?
Working on reopening for Friday. That's kind of been what I've been doing the last few days. But yeah, I have a Mixcloud, same as my Instagram handle. I just want to say thank you to everybody tuning in. I see all of you jumping in. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Stay safe. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. I'm not even bullshit you and say like we're all in this together. Like, if you're stupid, you'll die. Like, you know, we're not out of the woods on this thing yet. You know, even if things are reopening. So, you know, don't be stupid.
And don't be selfish.
Don't be selfish.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you in the distant future.
I hope to see you safe.
Sorry?
I said hope to see you soon, and please be safe.
You too.
Family, stay safe, and thank you so much. Shout out for having me. I really appreciate it.
Shout out for coming. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll talk to you soon.
I'll talk to you soon. Mwah.
Mwah.